First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and participating in this. We appreciate your feedback and input. And I'll turn it over to the man with the plan. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to go through a couple of sets of slides this evening. Have quite a bit to talk about because we are having two different hearings. We'll combine them all into one, but there really are two hearings tonight. The first one is about our operating budget for 2019, and then a second one will be regarding several bond issues which the selectmen are recommending for town meeting vote. So we're going to start by talking about the operating budget first. There are two sets of packets in the back. The first one is the one that's been at the post office. That's all the budget information with all the detailed line items and everything for each department. And the other one are slides for this evening. So you can follow along and make notes and see if I say the same thing at town meeting that I say tonight. So, all right, so we're going to get started. Like to start this evening like we normally do. For those of you who haven't been here before, we have some definitions. So you're going to hear the words operating budget. That is all of the expenditures for the day-to-day operations of our departments. That does not include any bond articles, special warrant articles, which are individual expenditure numbers, or capital reserve warrant articles. It also does not include, or we also will talk about revenues, and those are fees and income other than taxes. At this point in time, we estimate those revenues, and we don't set the final revenue numbers until September. Those revenues are on page 9 of this handout. Page 9 shows you each of the departmental revenues that we're estimating. It also gives you what we estimated in 2018 and what we actually collected as of December 31st, 2018. And then the final thing is an appropriation. The selectmen and our town staff cannot spend any money during a year without the approval of town meeting. So town meeting is the legislative body of the town, and you make the appropriations at town meeting. That budget that you approve is the limit that we have to work with for the year. We're not allowed to spend a penny more than that. And if something is a bonded warrant article or a special warrant article, we have to spend that money for that purpose that you approve. Okay? It's in the big budget item. Then the selectmen have some discretion to move it around with public hearings and stuff from one department to another. But we are limited to that bottom line that you folks appropriate. Okay? So the bottom line, just to give you the bottom line up front, the increase in the total taxes to raise for this year is $111,613. That's at the bottom of page 2 in the budget packet in comparison to 2018. This is a 4% total increase in the total budget, and or total amount to raise through taxes. Now there are additional revenues that we're recommending. Most of that is through the bond issues, and there is. We'll talk in more detail as we go, but the impact on taxes for you as an individual property owner, for every $250,000 of value on your property, that equates to about $85, $84.50. Okay.
Mark, can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so you know, come to the school board hearing on Monday, our savings to the town almost equals exactly that number.
Right, it's almost exactly the same number.
So if this all goes through, the tax difference should be zero.
Between the town and the school. Yeah. Okay. And no, we did not plan that.
We did not.
I was shocked on Monday when I saw what
Mark
the
came up and
increase
told me that
was.
on Monday.
I'm like, oh my goodness. So, so comparison 2018 to 19, this just breaks down the different parts of our budget, the operating budget, the new bonded projects, and our other warrant articles. And you can just follow this down and it shows you how we arrive at the $111,000 increase.
So what's the percentage increase in the operating budget?
The percentage increase in the operating budget is different. It's 6.9% in the operating. Yep. And there are some things driving that we'll talk about in detail here. Any questions on that? So, like I said, we are proposing to replace 2 key vehicles in our capital improvements. And the other major area that we have a large project in capital improvements is our trail maintenance and new construction. Those are capital one-time expenses. The operating expenses are the increase in that area is being driven by an increase in health insurance premiums, succession planning, so we're replacing employees as they retire, so we're planning to do that. And then there is some new programming in the recreation department and staffing changes that Brooke will talk about in just a few minutes.
Yeah, Mark, it's probably worth mentioning that wastewater, it takes, what, 2 years to get licensed?
Right. So we've hired one person about halfway through 2018. He started the training process for certification, and we're planning to add another person during 2019 because we have a person that's actually leaving. But I'll talk about that in more detail in just a second. So one of the things that the selectmen can do as part of the budget process is utilize our what's called the undesignated fund balance, or our surplus, which comes from unanticipated revenues that are collected over the year, or amounts from each year's budget that we do not spend. So year to year, the selectmen have taken a portion of that money, and they have used it to fund especially capital projects. And this year, 2019, part of the budget recommendation is to utilize $126,000 from our fund balance.
Mark, what was our surplus?
What is the fund balance?
So the fund balance as of December 31st was $932,318. So of that 932, we're planning on using 126. That'll give us a balance of 806 after that. Year to year, you can see we've used differing amounts, and that's been an annual decision making. Since 2011, we have returned about $1.1 million in fund balance back to reduce taxes, and that's the effect of this fund balance. All right. Generally accepted accounting practices say that recommend that we retain between 5% and 17% of our fund balance as operating capital to run the town. Okay, so like our checkbook balance. If we retain the 806,000, that puts us about 11.5% to 12% of the operating budget. So we're right in the middle of what is generally accepted as the amount to retain. Yeah.
What did we return from our operating budget in 2018 when we had surplus accounts?
We returned 102.5. Plus we have the emergency appropriation for the ladder truck. So we actually used a total of 205,000 and we returned 161 at the end of 2018. So that's why we're at 932, 318 now.
So we run consistently a surplus from our operating budget every year.
Yep, and we've run anywhere from 202,000 down as low as 161,000, which was this year since 2012. So we're somewhere in that.
And that's the fund balance, is that how you get the fund balance?
That's how you get the fund balance,
That goes
as
to
it builds
fund
up over,
Okay.
over
And
year.
is that in an interest-bearing account?
It's in an investment account until we have to use it, and then it comes into our checking.
Right. Thank you.
It's also worth mentioning, and it's the reason that we don't have to borrow,
That's right.
because we only get the taxes twice a year. So this allows the town to continue operating for the first 6 months of the year before the
Taxes
taxes
are actually due.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? So I'm going to talk about the special warrant articles now. So like I said, these are individual amounts of money that we're voting on for a specific purpose. The numbers off to the side that you see are the warrant article numbers that they will be on at town meeting. I'm not going to talk about number 12 yet. I'm going to leave that because that is a contingent warrant article, which we'll talk about when we get to the bonding article that it's related to, the fire fund. Article 13 will be a warrant article to lease a new public works backhoe. We have a pretty old piece of equipment with our current backhoe right now. We are recommending a 4-year lease at $34,000 per year for the lease.
And all these leases are $1 out, we own it.
$1 out, we own it, and each one of them includes an escape clause, which means that every year, if something changes and the town doesn't want to own the vehicle anymore, then the town meeting can vote to not appropriate the money and we return the vehicle.
How much is the outright purchase of that backhoe?
The outright purchase is about $120,000. Yes, Mike,
I just want to, I think I heard it, so after 4 years, we now own the vehicle?
that's correct.
Okay.
And we're running this vehicle anywhere from 10 to 12 years. That's the expected life.
Did you tell me the purchase price was $120,000?
Yes,
And it's a 4-year lease?
yes.
Okay,
Trying to figure out the effective interest rate.
I did.
And what was it
Okay.
like?
Pardon me?
What was it like?
The effective lease is around 3%, which is pretty
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty good.
But,
We were,
but I think that would have been important to understand.
Bill, you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question, but I'm not sure it's appropriate now. If you went back 7, 8 years, we never leased equipment. We used to basically just buy it out of operating funds. And now we're increasingly seem to be leasing everything. Why are we leasing everything?
Well, we're not leasing everything. We're leasing equipment that if there were a change in our operation, or if there were a reason that we no longer needed the piece of equipment, then we have more options than when we bond. Buying them outright when you're only replacing 1 or 2 pieces of equipment every few years is definitely an option. You can put money away, but we had gotten to the point where all of our equipment was very old. And we now have a replacement plan that spreads all of our equipment out over an expected useful life for that equipment. So a police cruiser, as an example, will be 6 or 7 or 8 years, depending on the use. Our plow trucks are around 10 years, etc. So now that we have this plan, we want to make sure that we're not having these large sums of money that we're only raising in 1 year. The only way to do that is to either borrow it from the bank, bond it, or do a lease. The lease gives us options on the vehicle. If we know we're going to be committed to a piece of equipment or a vehicle, then we'll bond it and we'll pay for it over 10 years or whatever the useful life is. So basically, these leases let us spread it out over years, but it's a shorter period of time. And it gives you guys more options on whether or not you want to have that. Mike?
Where's this money coming from? I remember last meeting we had, each warrant article said that the money's coming from the general fund, the money's coming from this capital fund, the money's coming from that.
And the same thing will happen if you look on this sheet. If you look on this page, there's a little annotation out here that says fund balance. Page 2 of the budget packet. Okay, so there's parentheses and some letters. So FB means it's coming out of fund balance, and if it says taxes, that's new taxes. If it says CR, it's capital reserve. You see those right here down along the side. So those have explanations for each.
So all of these I'm looking here, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all say fund balance.
That's correct.
The rest don't have.
The rest of them are either taxes or capital reserve.
On this side,
Mike, over here.
On this side.
On this side, there's a parenthesis.
Okay, yeah, I got it, yeah.
Okay.
I was looking in the little column, thank you.
Any other questions? Here we go. So Article 14 will be a lease of a new recreation bus, and Brooke will address the plan for that bus during our discussion of the programming in the recreation department. But it's a 3-year lease. The purchase price is about $57,000. Total funding is $66,000. Over the 3-year lease.
Why is the interest rate, the imputed interest rate on that lower?
I don't know. I will have to check.
That's a fine answer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know, you don't know.
I will go over the funding items with you afterwards. And
Whatever,
we'll take a look.
no big deal.
Warrant Article 15 is to purchase land. This is a cash item in the plan. It's to purchase a parcel of land between the beach and the Golden Eagle Lodge. That land currently belongs to the Waterville Company. It is not part of their conditional purchase and sale with the resort. It's been offered to the town, the selectmen negotiated, and it is, what page is that, Rich?
18.
Page 18 in your slide packet shows you where that parcel is located.
Could they have developed on that property?
I'm sorry?
Through zoning and other ordinances, could they have developed that parcel?
Yes, they can, it is a buildable lot.
Okay.
Yep. And so the selectmen held a, two of the selectmen, I'm sorry, yes. And yes, Mike abstained from the discussion and vote and everything on this. So Rich and Margaret, we held a public hearing. There is a conditional purchase and sale that the town has entered with the Waterville Company, conditional upon approval of town meeting of this warrant item.
And what would the land be used for?
Right now, the plan would be to work it into our recreation programs and trail improvements.
A bathhouse.
Bathhouse.
That's the idea.
Pavilion.
Just provide additional bathrooms attached to it.
How much rate are we talking about?
I want to say it's 0.7 of an acre or something like that. I will find out.
That the price that is there, is the current market value
That was that.
of, assessed value of the property, and it's what the water bill company has been paying taxes on for a number of
Correct.
years.
Of course, they could donate.
We asked.
I suggested that, yes.
We asked.
Question, I won't
Yes.
tell you what they wanted for it when they first brought it up.
Where would the potentially proposed chapel area be?
Well, if you look on that map on page 18, there's a little star with a circle around it. That would be,
Thank
that
you.
might be a spot that it could be located. That's town owned land. And there is a warrant article about that for town meeting, so you can discuss it.
Who's building it, the chapel?
We haven't got.
We haven't gotten that
to any of
far,
that stuff yet.
but it would be not the town.
Okay.
It would be a different organization. Okay, any other questions on 14 or 15? Article 16 is to repair the exterior of the library, and this is a complete rebuild from the roof to the sides of the building, to windows, to insulation, and everything else. The library trustees have worked with Jim, and they've gone around the entire building. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the building. We do not have any formal quotes or anything on the work yet. This is our best estimate at this time for the cost, and if it costs less, we'll spend less.
Those windows aren't that
No, it's not. It's the frame around the
old.
windows.
Not the
and-
actual windows.
Yeah, not the windows, not the replacement of the windows themselves, I'm sorry. But it doesn't, we don't know what we're gonna find, quite frankly, when we start removing the siding. Huh?
I can guess.
Well, hopefully it won't be that way. Okay? And there is, if there's enough money, we will also work on the foundation and make sure that while we've got it apart, that we are good to go for many years. Jim, anything I left out?
No.
Oh, thank you. And then Article 17 is to create a capital reserve account for the Curious George Cottage. The town, while the cottage is operated by the Ray Center, day to day, the town does retain ownership of that building, and we are responsible for the upkeep of the building. And beginning of 2018, the heating system failed, and we ended up taking $7,000 or so out of our operating budget to make we had to replace the entire furnace. So we would like to create this capital reserve so that if we have another big ticket item like that, the roof or something like that that has a catastrophic failure, we have this money available.
And this is a one-time.
And it's a one-time
It's not
setup
going to
fee,
be
right?
replenished like roads or
Right.
So this is in addition to what we give them every year?
Yes,
Well,
This is
for
the-
2019.
Oh, right.
But the 25,000 that we give them year to year is support of the operation.
but
This
not
is our, this is,
We own the building.
we're not giving
We
it
own
to
it.
them.
Put it
We're
aside.
retaining it. Right. Okay. Any questions on this? So we have the second year of the Public Works plow truck lease. Again, because of the non-appropriation clause, the town meeting needs to vote every year on whether or not to continue the leases. Article, so this is a lease that was approved last year. Article 19, we're going to add to the road repair capital reserve, $20,000. We have a current balance in that account of $39,291.
Why don't you tell us how we came up with the 39?
The 39,000 is the balance that we carried forward from the 40,000 that was appropriated last year. So this money is used for emergency repairs of sections of road if they wash out, or if we have to do a repair on, say, a water line, and we have to cut a portion of the road to do that repair, then repaving that section would be done with this money.
The bridge on the west branch that connects to Supply Road.
Yep.
Is perennially bad. It's perennially bad in the wintertime. Last year, I remember Margaret asked to get the potholes filled. Now the bus stack has to stop when it goes over because it's so bad. Do we have any plans for some sort of repair of that bridge to make it better?
It's not our bridge, it's a Forest Service bridge. And we have asked them to address it.
Now, we could go in and do little patchwork, and maybe they'll get mad at us, maybe they don't.
Which was done today.
It was done today? Okay. Well, I
This is, you can't really put coal patch down in ice. So we trying to get the sun to help us out a little bit. And we went out and heated up some of the worst of the holes.
You know, you can run to the Forest Service.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, believe me, we don't like to go over the plow trucks either. So.
Nobody wants to. I mean, like I said, the buses now stop. As they go.
I think Mike's got an important.
Write some letters to them, you know, maybe the mountain, have the residents who live down there write about it. You know, I don't mind writing one either, but. We've tried as a
We
town.
ask every year for them to set aside money to fix that bridge. And by fix, I mean take it apart and put it back together appropriately. Because what we're doing with coal patch, those holes are just gonna come back.
So and we did a really good job on the West Branch Bridge connecting back to town.
Well, but that's our bridge,
Right,
that's
so-
the town's bridge.
Right. Can you do me a favor and on the website, tell us who we should write to? Sure.
Okay,
So it'd be good, so if anybody wants to point people to it, say, wait.
We'll give you the direct numbers and direct names.
yeah.
That will help.
It's a good idea.
Also, define specifically which bridge that is by its.
By
code
Depot
number.
Camp, by Depot Camp.
I know, but we need to know that to specify it.
Oh, got it, yes, yes, all right,
Actually, the road there has a different name,
yes.
West Branch Road.
West Branch Extension.
West
West Branch Extension.
Branch Extension.
Oh, we will put that, friendly.
Skiers can write names too.
Yes,
It's
skiers,
hard to look.
absolutely.
Shocking.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on 18 and 19? Article number 20 will be,
I'm sorry, Mark.
yes,
I had a question. I've noticed that the sidewalk clearing mechanism or machine has been out of service.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that you did it with front end loaders and plows and things like that, which probably is not the most efficient. So is there any plan to make sure that you have a machine that can clear the sidewalks? That's a big deal because a lot of people like to walk. I mean, that's how the Waterville builds itself. The whole family retirement
well,
community.
it is working now, it's been repaired,
Okay.
and it is in the capital program. I don't know the exact year, I can look it up for you, but,
Well, I looked through the budget, I didn't see anything
Well,
related
there's
to it.
nothing
It's in the
for this
it's in
year.
the capital on a few years.
It's out.
It's not that old a machine.
No,
Well, I understand,
But Tom, the problem we have with this
is we have limited staff, limited time, and a limited window to get everything cleared when it's done. And unfortunately, we've been hit this year especially hard with all these very small storms that have taken our manpower.
Yeah.
We only have what we have for manpower.
You know, I understand all that, but we are in New Hampshire.
Right.
We do get snow. I mean, that's common knowledge. I mean, if you're down in Boston, I can kind of understand, it's a lot warmer. But we're up here, and, you know, I went into Plymouth, all the sidewalks were done.
Right, but Plymouth has the luxury of being able to afford a public works department that's significantly higher than
Or we could hire more people at the time.
No,
Or we can
all
buy
I'm
another-
saying,
another
all
unit.
I'm saying is, we bill water bill as a certain thing. And if you can't walk around the town, it doesn't meet those standards.
Oh, no, we get it.
That's all I'm saying.
This is not like we're not trying to get this and keep this. We want this.
No.
We want it done, and unfortunately, we're doing the best we can. It's the phrase I heard is, we can't build the parking lot of the church for Easter. Meaning that we are limited to what we can do. If we want to, you know, buy a machine and a specific operator for the machine and include it in the budget, we can certainly recommend that at town meeting.
Well, I mean, that is obviously an option, but there's certain things that can and cannot be done. I know you have certain manpower issues, but I think you need to look at it holistically of, you know, what's the goals and objectives, what do we provide as service for the town? And to be quite honest, I'm wondering, you know, as a new resident, what are all the services that are provided? And to me, snow removal, both for roadways and sidewalks, should be way up there.
It is. It's the top. Jim and his guys are out working straight. We have to take them off the roads and make sure they take breaks because of our insurance and safety. But these guys are willing to be out there and work and do what's needed to keep us the best we can with what we've got. So we're working on maybe as things progress and our tax base expands and we need more things, we can add more people and equipment. But just right now, Jim, you want to speak to it?
Well, I think that looking forward
Yeah.
with some of the things that we will be talking about either coming up or in the future about bike paths and et cetera.
Multi-use pathway.
Get rid of the granite curbing.
Yeah.
And then we get rid of these issues.
Okay? I mean,
Because-
I've been at the meetings for those things. I think, you know, they're all good. I looked at the budget, and you're not doing anything, at least from the budget I could tell, that you're not doing any increases in sidewalks to 2022, which is kind of far out.
Well, no, we've got our plans, we're getting the engineering done for a lot of this stuff now. Ray, you got a question?
I'm sure the selectmen will take the comments under advisement.
Of course we will. Thank you. All right, Wendy?
Is there a reason why the walkway from the library down over to the bridge and then there's that, you know, off the new walkway we did and then on the bridge there's a walkway? And that machine, is that not able to go
It's
on
not
that
able to go
surface?
down.
Just wondering.
All right, great, let's,
But before you leave that, so when you do the new sidewalks without the curbs, which I have kind of scared about that because I've watched people drive in the winter, you can't see the lines, and I guarantee people will be driving on the sidewalk area. But are you planning, part of the logic behind that is to be able to use plows to
Yes.
clear those off so it's easier to
Yes.
keep clear?
and we have that wider so people aren't in the middle, it gives a lot more definition, a lot more safety for people.
Okay.
The granite curb requires two different machines.
Right.
No, I understand. But it also provides a certain level of safety. So I think
All right,
in
great.
your arguments, you need to kind of make sure that that's, you know.
All right, let's move on to the engineering for the dam number 20.
Warrant article number 20, we have a contractor who started work at the end of October on the dam project. This is armoring the dam that we talked about a lot last year. So they are in the process of viewing the project right now. We hope to start up sometime as early in the spring as we can. It'll all be weather dependent.
I'd like to give a little bit of background on this. We wrote this project, well, first of all, we had hired an engineering firm. And the state had said our engineering firm needs another engineering firm to oversee all their steps because of the technique, the technology and what we're doing there, specialized in according to the state. So because we broke this project into two phases, as a courtesy to the mountain requested we did
do it this way, so it wouldn't interfere with our wedding business for the summer. So we did this, and what we have to do now is we're looking at roughly, we were hoping it's not 10,000. We're hoping it's more like 7,000 or so. Because our engineers have to be engineers, which is just mind-blowing to me, but this whole thing has been mandated by the state to us. We've had no, they wanted $1.6 million for a project. We got them down after fighting for these years to where we are. So we're doing this, but as the selectmen, what we've done is we've discussed this, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the mountain after the season and ask them to contribute to these costs, because these costs are pretty much associated with the courtesy we gave them for splitting the project. And I don't think it's going to be money they're going to give us for things, but there are things we can trade off with them for work in some of the machinery to achieve some of the goals we have for our next phase of signage and trail work. And there's also, we have some strange accounting things that we're still working out with them from years of missed decimal points. So maybe they'll forgive some of those things as a courtesy for us taking on this. But this is nothing we planned, nothing we wanted to do. It's just the New Hampshire DES just helping us achieve our goal. Yes, sir.
Did this project start later than anticipated?
Yes.
Was that part of
It
the
was
problem
supposed to
as well?
start at the beginning of September, it didn't start till the end of August.
So is that adding to this?
That
Yes,
added to the
because they had
problem.
weddings, they didn't want to interrupt it in looking at construction issues.
And we had a particularly bad November, which caused us to, we need some additional engineering time, and so this appropriation would go towards the project, and if we don't use it, it'll return to fund balance at the end of the year. Yes,
This one says recommended fund balance. All the other special warrant articles, how are they going to be funded, or is that not?
That's what we were talking about. If you look on page 2, Mike, you can show them. So FB needs fund balance and writing taxes or whatever. Okay? Any questions on this one?
Are you gonna be presenting this at the meeting?
Yeah, we have to. It's a separate warrant item.
I mean, this whole presentation?
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is I think it would be helpful if you, for each one of those, on the presentation, you said where it came from.
Okay.
On some you did.
Sure.
On others you
Yeah, we're
didn't.
also going to put recommendations by the selectmen and things like that, whether we approve them, we don't.
Remember, at town meeting, we'll be reading
There'll be
the whole
warrant
article and
articles,
it'll say where the money's coming.
I get it.
Okay.
All right.
And then
Can I ask one more
yes.
question related to these warrant articles?
Sure.
So, this is the last warrant article, right?
That's the last special warrant article. So it's the last individual warrant article for money for a specific purpose.
So at some point, if all the warrant articles pass,
Yes.
we'd like to know what that does to the.
That's all included in the, if every warrant article is passed and
That's
everything, that is the 111,000. That's everything.
That's why remember we have
That's
the big,
better than I expected, thank you.
remember why we have the big whiteboard on the side there?
Yeah, we'll be adding the tally on the whiteboard
Okay.
as we go. So there are two projects or two pieces of funding that will be in the big warrant article for the departments, right? Which will be, what warrant article is it going to be this year? It has to be. But we'll finalize the warrant, but anyway.
22.
The what? 22. So in warrant article 22, which is all of the rest of the operating budget, there are two capital items. And that is the second year of a 3-year project to replace the carbon in the carbon filters at the wastewater treatment plant, and to add to our ongoing water and wastewater repair account. And the reason that we're doing them in capital outlay in the operating budget is because they're actually related to each other, and if the carbon project were to go over by $2,000 or whatever, we could use water and wastewater repair monies the water and wastewater repair monies are for the maintenance of the system. And this carbon project is basically maintenance. So we just put them in there because it gives the selectmen the ability to move between these two projects. Okay? Any questions? All right. So now the rest of the operating budget, which starts, you have your detailed line items are here. Okay. Starting on page 3. And I'm gonna highlight some of the line items that are having an impact down the line item. Okay. And you can follow along department to department on these 2 pages. It just shows you a complete department summary. Okay. So there are 2 things, personnel and other, and I've already started to talk about the personnel costs. Under personnel, we have our cost of living adjustment for town employees. Each year, the selectmen look at the consumer price index numbers for the Northeast region, the Boston region, and they compare, or they look at what's happened, and then they make a decision on a cost of living change to wages for town employees. The town, unlike the schools, way that they pay the teachers, it's not a step plan. We have a minimum amount that we pay for a job position, and we have a maximum, okay? So there are no automatic steps for an employee. The only ways that an employee's pay changes is through this cost of living adjustment, or if they get a new certification or their job description changes and they move up a grade or whatever within our pay plan. So there's nothing automatic year to year for any town employee. Since 2015, the CPI has changed 2.6%, and town cost of living adjustments have been about 6.8% in that same time period. So the selectmen keep them relatively consistent with the CPI. Any question?
Yeah, rationale for using the Boston area index as opposed to the overall New England? It's quite.
I'm sorry. It is the Northeast CPI that we use, not Boston, not the Boston urban.
Okay.
We
I thought that
use
was 1.7%.
I'm sorry.
I thought that was 1.7%.
It was this year, but since I was talking about 1.7% for the Northeast.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, but anyway, that's not what we printed. We printed.
No, you guys said it was 2.3 is the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is it 2.3 or is it 1.7?
Okay. We'll have to look.
Mark, if you take total compensation percentage increase, you know, because health insurance is probably a third of now the cost of salaries.
Yeah.
What is that number? What percentage increase overall is it?
With the new positions, it's 6.8%.
No, I don't want to count. What I'm talking about is existing jobs today.
Where was your
Our
overall
compensation
effect?
increase is 5%, 3-4%.
I don't know right off the top of my head.
All right. I don't think it's fair to count new positions as a personnel cost. You know, what I'm trying to figure out is, again, you know, is our, you know, I know we don't change our benefits plan all that often, but every now and then you got to take a look at these and say, gee, are we putting so much money in health insurance we can't afford to continue to do that?
It's insane.
Yeah, it
Absolutely
is.
insane
It's
how much
crazy.
money And we looked at it a couple of years ago where we put new people
Yeah.
coming in on a slightly different plan until they've been here a while. Because we had
Yeah.
a section of our staff was turned to be translated for a while. So we did that, but we're looking at it, and it's these state mandates that are killing us. These retirements.
But the state does not mandate what percentage we have to pay. Do they do in retirement, but not in health.
That's correct.
That's
Right, in
right.
health insurance, we can choose to have employees contribute more if we
Right.
chose.
Yeah, we can choose whatever
Yeah, so the tough thing is what Margaret, who leads us in this department, has done is she's kept a fairly good Margaret together, looked at a sampling of what jobs are paying in the region. And
Yeah,
what's it worth for us to keep people and build a team, because we have an older workforce that is tending to retire. And we're looking to bring people in who are going to stay here and want to stay here, as opposed to, having to retrain, rehire. And we've been kind of fortunate where we had someone step into Bill Cheney's job really easily. And Bill Cheney, if none of you know, was here forever and just kept everything running. I don't know how he did it, but he did. He kept everything running here. It's the same issue we have going forward with the wastewater treatment plant. That hopefully we'll find one or two people that will come here, want to be part of our team and stay for a while, because the certifications that are required for us to keep our licenses in wastewater treatment are substantial. And once someone reaches these certifications, they can go pretty much anywhere. And if we wind up without a certified wastewater treatment manager, we're going to have to hire it out to another company to come in and run this for us, which is going to be a lot more expensive and lose a lot of our control. So we do tend to look at it, but we haven't, we did it a few years ago where we really looked close, but Mark, maybe.
Well, and the other thing I think to keep in mind is that we all know that employment is really tight right now. It's very hard to find people, let alone qualified people. And, if we have something extra going on with our benefits that other people don't have, maybe that's gonna convince somebody to do the 13 miles into the valley every day, to come and work with us. So my sense is this is not a good time for us to be taking things away, because people have so many options, so many places they can go. And it's hard to get people to come in. It always has been.
Any other questions? We will check the CPI and the impact.
If the CPI is different, are you going to change this? Because the school board,
Yeah,
they are.
we're certainly going to look at it. If it's not significantly different,
Right, so,
we'll go with what we are, but if it is a half a point or 3/4 of a point, it's definitely worth looking at.
because the school board went lockstep with this, and
I understand.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
we'll want to adjust our budget as well.
Sure. Yep. I don't think so.
I don't think we can.
But we'll check. I'll talk to you about it.
Warrants are done, so.
Well, that would be, that's what that is.
Or if we can't, what we also could do is reflect it next year.
Yeah, you can.
We can
Mhm.
average out the 2 years, so I can do that as well.
All right, just let me know.
Yep. And the health insurance premium, as Bill talked about, this year's guaranteed maximum rate increase is 14.6% as of July 1st. We're on a July 1st plan.
Yeah, it is
And-
1.7.
And the GMR just means that it won't go up any more than that. They do one more look at it before July, before they make the actual change, but it's usually very close to the GMR. And also impacting health insurance costs that you're gonna see in each of the different departments is, as employees' plan qualifications change, cost changes. So if a young married couple has a baby, they move from a two-person plan to a family plan. And vice versa, as children move out, and that's been what we have, because we have long-term. They go from a family plan down to a two-person. So those, because we have so few full-time employees, a change like that can have a big impact on the percentage changes in the budget.
The employees don't pay, correct?
That's correct, it's 100%.
They do have an
There-
opportunity to have
There
a.
is one. Yeah, 1%, I'm sorry, 1%. We had one employee that was grandfathered at 100, but we hired, the selectmen a few years ago started the percentage. And
They also, do they still have the choice of two plans?
No.
They don't. Oh.
we've got it down to,
And the other thing that you should know about employee plans, if an employee opts out of our plan, we pay a certain percentage of that to them as a bonus.
as an incentive to get them to go on to another plan, so that we don't see the loss experience within our, plus it saves us that percentage that we're not paying.
What this has come to is that it's entirely rational to be paying about 50% of salaries in benefits.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Some of the numbers, when you look at it on the board, is just, well, to me, it's fine.
Okay, that's using this.
It would be interesting to know that number in future presentations. What percentage of a total personnel cost now at benefits?
I'll have that.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful. It really is. It's,
Say it's between 35 and 45%.
we had a situation where we were proposed to take a part-time position and make it a full-time position. And as selectmen, we decided we just don't want to do that because it would mandate us paying full benefits. Whereas position, if it was made full-time, the multiplier on it was just ridiculous.
The principal reason for this is healthcare.
Yeah.
And retirement, some of our people have stepped up into levels where retirement is, but it's worth it to keep them. And no choice. All right.
Any, and then the succession planning that we talked about, the wastewater treatment plant, so we have an expected. I'm gonna let, that's gonna come in when Brooke does her. So we have the one new position, we need, as Mike said, we need to educate and train a replacement person. And there is quite a lead time to get people fully certified at the levels.
Let me clarify that more. We have to find a person who's got the basic first two levels of certification and bring them along to the third and fourth level of certification. Keep the wastewater plant going. So that's why we're looking for multiple people to get in there to see, to keep our options going because we can't really function without it. So it's that cumbersome to, keep this.
And we have made do, the plant when it was built was supposed to have a staff of 2.5 positions. We have run it historically with 2 people. When Tim Kingston left, since Tim left, we've been running it with 1 person and a backup from the water department. But now that Bill Cheney has left the town's employment, retired, that water person is spending very little time on the wastewater side because we're trying to make up for all of the experience we lost when Bill left. So he's spending more time on the water side and can only do basic stuff on the wastewater side.
So I'm confused, this budget adds.
It adds 1 position for half a year.
Now, that person was hired last year.
No, we had the person hired last year.
So we hired 1 person last year and you're proposing a second.
That's correct. And what will happen is, so that will give us a total, once we do the hiring, of 3 people, but Greg's gonna be leaving in December. So we'll be back down to 2.
Is it a change in Greg's plans? I thought he was leaving last year.
He's been nice enough to
He's
stay.
been nice enough to stay till December 31st
Okay.
this year. giving us enough time to get people trained up to replace him, because he's been here 37 years. So, the guy is in class right now to get up to the level of certification that we're going to need when Greg leaves. And again, these are state mandated certifications. It's, you have to have them. Okay?
Question,
Yes.
do you have any plans if the people get certified and then they leave us?
Yep.
This happens in the school too.
Yep.
Any kind of a clause that says if we train you and everything, will you stay working for us for some period of time?
If we incur direct costs, yes, we can do that. We can have, we're gonna send you to this class and it's gonna be $10,000 or whatever to send you to this class. We have a repayment agreement that we sign with the employee before they start the course. But with these state certifications, there's no outside cost like a tuition cost for us. So we're just trying to get them to those certification levels, and then it's going to be whether or not they want to stay here. We're not incurring any direct costs that we can ask them to repay.
I'm not worried about the cost, I'm worried about their loyalty.
Well,
Is there a way to
well,
put a clause in someone's contract that says if
They don't have-
you get
they don't have
certification?
contracts.
A contract is a contract. The loyalty is we're giving them good benefits, a great work environment.
That's right.
Beautiful place to
That's
work.
why we're trying to use things like our benefits package and trying to keep our pay rates competitive so that they don't go looking for other places to work. But as Margaret said, employees right now here in New Hampshire especially, and especially in water and wastewater, you can ask Jim, this is a problem the state of New Hampshire is having problems finding qualified people. This is a problem that every town is having because the employees can go anywhere and ask for basically what they want.
And the older employees that have the certifications are retiring, and none of the young people are coming into these types of trades. So it's very, very difficult.
We've actually looked at incentivizing our benefit service, but we haven't had to get to that yet. But that's something we might have to get to going forward.
And there's no one training for this in college or in trade schools. There's no available. We were lucky to find the one person that we found to hire in 2018, and I think this year it's going to be the same type of challenge, getting qualified people to come in. Like Mike said, they're even the first level of qualification.
Well,
We just
remember
have to
smiling
find
and
a way.
waving.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Other budget line items? We do have a lot more to talk about on the project, so. Administration, there are wage adjustments. We added 5 hours a week to the part-time position, as Mike said. This brings us up to the highest level that we could be at and still maintain that position at part-time. And then health insurance impacts are the major increases in administration. 4191, planning and zoning. The planning board has, throughout 2018, was undergoing a review, comprehensive review of the zoning ordinance. We're gonna have a lot of questions on the warrant for town meeting about making changes to that. And then they want to continue that in 2019. And then they also want to fund having a planning consultant available when they have large projects come in and have somebody there who's a professional planner to help them deal with those applications.
Mark, so that means that these proposed zoning changes will not be talked about until town meeting?
Well,
We're not gonna talk about anything other than budget tonight.
right,
Okay, that's fine.
We don't have the expertise or.
No, that's fine.
Yours is a very good question, and we should talk to Terry whether he plans to hold a public hearing.
I think that would be great.
To propose change.
I think it's very important.
No, I think we should
They're
definitely.
pretty
do that.
staggering, so,
Right.
so, educated public would be helpful.
yeah. We will talk to the planning board about that. 4193, information technology, we have software updates. We have additional costs for some new internet and phone services, and an increase in the monthly price, as everyone sees on their own bills. And improvements to our online payment services, which we have a large percentage of our payments that are currently being made online. People use it all the time, and we want to improve those things so that it's easier for the public to use the website. WVAIA is requesting an increase from $3,000 to $10,000 for additional trail maintenance that will be done during 2019. This is complementary to the Recreation Department's new programming because of their focus on hiking and summer activities. And we hope to, along with the trail work that we want to do in the capital project, tie in some of this WVAIA work with that. AIA is a great resource for the town to use because they have a good relationship with the Forest Service about the trail system, and we really think it's beneficial to have them involved.
Mark,
Yes.
on line 4195, I think it's a mistake. I think the balance should have been 3,575, it's 575.
Okay, I'll check that out. The police department, health insurance premiums are a major area that's being, that's impacting their bottom line, their budget. We do have a part-time wage reimbursement for a police academy attendance. So this is how Chris and Dave handle training for a person in the public safety area. When they go to the academy, we do not pay them. They
Goes back to
go,
what Brenda.
that goes back to what Brenda was saying. And so we don't pay them when they go to the academy, right, Chris?
Correct.
And then after they have started with us and
And
served
work for a
some time,
year, yeah.
they work for a year, and then we give them a reimbursement for that time that they spent at the academy. Solid waste collection changes are in wages. Solid waste disposal, this relates to solid waste versus recycling, but because we have stopped our single stream recycling program, we are throwing everything away as solid waste now, and that's caused a change in the amount per ton that it costs us to dispose of it, and that's what's causing the increase on line 4324. Yes?
Is there any way that Waterville can team up with other towns or other places?
We're investigating it, we've looked at it.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the same boat we are.
Well, let me finish. I appreciate it. I know it's not easy, but what about also talking to our elected officials and things like that? It seems like it's not a problem that's unique to us, apparently.
No.
And that maybe it needs to be addressed on a larger scale.
They're aware of it.
I understand, but I want to find out what you guys are doing about it, because I was a
Okay,
little
so-
shocked to get the letter that says you're just canceling recycling.
So here's what we're doing. We are working with a group called Northeast Resource Recovery Association, NRRA. They are a New Hampshire-based group that assists communities with recycling specific activity. Okay, they are going to come here in the spring. They are going to evaluate what we're doing for trash, what our facilities look like. They're going to drive around town, look at how we collect solid waste. And they're gonna work on developing some options that we can look at to try to get back to doing even a partial recycling, if we can do that cost effectively. Additionally, I am continuing to look for other places other than Bethlehem who are still taking single stream recycling, okay?
Okay.
There are very few. Right now, I've only been able to identify 2 different places in New Hampshire that are under 2 hours to get to for us. And we are talking to them about what their tipping fee would be if they let us recycle. So we are continuing to work on it. We are limited by the fact, by who we are as a community, with all the transient folk and all that come here. We are very limited to how we can do recycling. And we don't have any land to build a transfer station on, and so we are limited.
So I wanted to follow up with that. So are there other towns in close proximity, Plymouth, I'm just naming towns, that also recycle, that we could work with them to take advantage of what they're doing? And then the second part of that question is, are there some low-hanging fruit, such as aluminum cans, cardboard, paper, things like that that are easier to recycle, that maybe you don't need to do single stream, but that we can take advantage of?
That's what NRRA is going to do when they come in the spring. And the reason they're coming in the spring is they need to see the ground. They can't see our transfer station right now and those sorts of things. So in the spring, we'll have those conversations.
Okay.
We have asked other towns about recycling with them. They, unless we completely bought in to their operation, i.e. we help them with their capital costs, right? And that would be very expensive, like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy in. They won't let us take stuff there.
All right, so you let us take stuff there for a certain nominal fee, you'd have to buy in.
You got to buy into their operation.
I went and met with the Hampton Selectmen on this.
Okay.
To come in and ask, even if we can allow our people to buy permits to
Okay.
go to the other one, their facilities. They're in the same boat we are right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's a difficult issue, but I think it's important as a community that,
Plymouth just said no.
Okay.
We asked.
I mean, right now, I ship my stuff back to my son in Boston.
But you have to remember, we didn't cancel.
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just hoping that we can look at solutions.
Since you got the letter that we
Yeah.
canceled, we were canceled by the company.
So if the answer, I know we've got a capital item on a new dump truck coming up.
Yeah.
But if the answer to all of this stuff is no, if recycling is not going to be practical, what's the town's thinking about, since there's so much more volume now of trash being disposed of, and so much more pressure on the individual, on the dumpsters in the individual condo associations, what's the town thinking about how to do something with that? I mean, I think just leaving the dumpsters full all the time is not going to be the long-term solution.
I think we're going through a perfect storm this winter.
Yeah.
Where the dumpsters started freezing into the ground quicker than we thought they would, and our truck has been dying on us. Our truck broke down 4 times in 3 days. That's why we're getting a new truck. Now, hopefully, one of the plans we're doing is we're trying to get our truck resuscitated to some degree. Meaning that whatever we do with it, we're paying an absorbent amount of money to rent a truck, which is a smaller truck, so it doesn't have the capacity to make the rounds and do what we're used to doing here. So that truck is there, but once we put the money into it, what we're figuring here is we can sell it and defray some of the cost of the truck we're buying, or we can keep it and use it. Our problem is we have no place to store, these dumpsters. Things tend to freeze in them. That's why we have to run off so much. But we're looking at it. One of the things we did a couple of years ago is we're so small and not consistent with our flow of solid waste and recyclables is we spent a bunch of money to have someone create an RFP for us to bid out our whole solid waste system. So maybe we could get away from this, maybe have someone come in that could do it better and cheaper than we could. And what we thought as the Board of Selectmen was this would be worth doing, spending the money for the request RFP, because at least we'd have 3 or 4 of these big haulers come in and tell us what they would do and what it would cost them. We got a guy from Rumney with a truck who said he could come on Tuesdays. That was the only person that responded, because we're so small and
we're so isolated.
So it is unique, and we are not abandoning the idea. We all believe in recycling. It's not like we want this to go, but we have to find something that works. And luckily, we've got this consulting group coming in that might give us an idea.
Is it possible that we've outgrown once a week trash pickup?
It's daily.
It's daily. We are servicing dumpsters virtually every day.
I think we've gotten to the point where we have to go to the source and demand stores stop packaging things. We don't need to bring things home the way we do and throw that stuff away.
Nina, if you'd like, we can bring that up at the meeting as a sense of the community.
People probably wouldn't like it, but when we lived in Europe, everything was wrapped in newspaper.
And we'll do a sense of the meeting, and if that's a vote on it, we'll, as a town, publish a letter or put a letter out.
So is there an opportunity to charge people for the amount of trash?
We're charging the commercial accounts pay.
Okay.
Everybody.
And everybody pay a $15 fee,
Everybody.
but the commercial accounts is based on actual usage.
Well, I guess I'm getting to the point.
Some towns do it that way for
There is
or increase the amount so people
program.
throw out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things we can do.
And they might tell us to do this. They might tell us to sell bags and staff the place and lots of stuff. But people tend to prefer having an open dump where we can go on a Sunday morning or Sunday night. So we have to look, it's really so much more complex than.
So where's your plan to put the landfill for?
We don't have one.
No, I know that. I kind of say it tongue in cheek, but I mean, you know.
There is no place to put it in town.
Another
That's part of the
ski
problem.
Has Waterville Valley thought of the idea of compost, maybe?
Yeah, and we have started the conversation with NRRA. That's one of the things
That would help.
well, it will if we can set it up and be effective at it, because we don't want to trash heap somewhere in town. It's got to be something that we can do and do it effectively and sustain it year after year. Because if we spend all of the money to put this in place, you gotta run it every day.
So you're gonna wait for the NRRA recommendations before buying a new trash?
No, we're gonna, we
we
need to
need
truck right now.
How do you know that you don't get a different kind of trash truck?
We still
We still have-
have to get whatever trash we do collect. We
Have to get to a
it
central
from
point.
here to a central point. And we need that truck.
There are, lots of different designs of trash trucks out
Right, but we've learned the ones that are smaller than we have don't work
They don't
because
work.
we have the 2-man crew that has to make that one-day trip.
That's right. Well, they
Oh,
do
you don't-
because they're front-loading trucks, and our dumpsters don't work with front-loading trucks. So we would have to replace every dumpster in town, which would be over $100,000 to do that. So, yeah, maybe NRRA will say you should have a front-loading truck, and we may someday, but that isn't gonna be part of the plan that I can see having that done right now.
All right, speaking of waste, let's go to wastewater. Anyone has any other questions on solid waste?
So there are some wastewater, sorry.
Yep.
We talked about the position, health insurance. There is a heating fuel. We've been cutting back over the last several years on the heating fuel. We basically have cut it back too much, so there is an increase in this year. We're trying to level off that line item on actual use. the decrease in the reserve personnel, that is the department that we used to hire the person that we hired in 2018. So that is going down because we're moving. We actually had budgeted 2 people in that department. We've got it down to 1 person for this year. 45, 20, and 25 will be Brooke's presentation. And then I get to listen to somebody else for a minute.
All right. Wow. So there has been some consistent growth with the Recreation Department over the past several years, and with sort of some requests from the community to expand the trails and also to have kind of a central point person to coordinate different efforts. We are excited to expand our department outside and get outside more and not just be here at the rec department. So what that will look like is it will be a staffing change. They'll be adding 1 person. The recreation, what we offer there right now is summer camps, our facility rentals that will be in the rec department, and also the different programs that we offer. We have adult fitness, we have our events and specials, our after-school program, and all those other services that we offer right here. Okay, and that will be 1 person kind of overseeing that. And then we'll split it into parks. So the parks person will lead our summit adventure program, deal with our beach and field facility rentals. I don't know if people noticed, hopefully you did last year, how we had Packard Field done. Last year was the first year we were able to have some money to hire a part-time person to sort of keep our fields looking really beautiful and our beach looking a lot better. Hopefully people took notice. That would be a part of that. We also have lots of plans for our outdoor adventure programs and trips. So that would be, right now we started the snowshoe hikes. We plan to continue on yearly or annually with different hiking adventures and all sorts of different programs that we can do associated with that. We have our waterfront, the waterfront rentals that we have, the boat rentals will go under the parks position, as well as our special events like the fall foliage race. And then we also have plans to do a trail map and guide. Okay, so we're working hopefully with AMC author Steve Smith to do sort of a walking map and trail map for us to highlight the center of town, all with all the trails expansions that we have planned, which we'll talk about I think in a little bit. We want to focus on, right now the AIA has a wonderful map for all the trails that go into the forest there. But what we want to do is blow up the town center and the new trails that we'll have there that will connect you to those. So that for people that don't really want necessarily to do those other trails, or people that want to start at town center and move out, will have opportunities to do that. That will be a great opportunity to sort of highlight Largo Valley and all the different things that we have to offer here. The trail and field maintenance will also be a part of that. So I can go to the next slide. So kind of highlighting our new additions. Like I mentioned, the guided hike, snowshoe, also fly fishing. We have plans, we've had some requests to do an AMC hut overnight hike. One way that a lot of communities get the word out is through hiking badge programs, the 4,000 footer and different, have people heard of these badge programs that give you incentive to come to an area. And then we have trail, beach, and field maintenance, ways that we can work with AIA, ways that we can be sort of a central coordinating. If people have trail issues that come up that they need, okay, we need this addressed, or who does it belong to, there's a lot of coordinating that is not happening that has been requested of us to happen. So through the Ray Center, the WVAIA, anybody that just wonders if there's a trail that they can go on with their bike or hike or whatever, this would be something that we can handle. Future, we're looking to that little piece of land between the beach and the Golden Eagle. We're looking at having a beach pavilion there, which would be additional event rental space, as well as a bathhouse, which is desperately needed, not only for the people that come to visit the beach, but for our campers that go to the beach. I mean, there's obvious, everyone knows there's a big beach there. So in terms of the guide and the marketing of the Valley is really something that I would like to put a lot of effort into, is trying to find ways to package with places or the hotels here and lodges, ways to get people to visit, ways that we can partner with local and national efforts, state tourism. A lot of this stuff is stuff we just simply don't have time for right now, but could add a lot to bringing people to Waterville Valley to enjoy what we have out of doors. Oops, I think back one more. Did I skip over anything? I've been able to just recently just touch base and meet some people in talking and coordinating and talking about this. It's been great. Like the White Mountain Trail Collective is a fairly new organization that helps people get grants and helps people expand their trails for recreation for their communities. And so that's been one contact that I've been able to make, and there's just so many more, endless amounts of partnering that we can do that we're not able to do at this point. We also would like to have, just sort of a really good marketing campaign to Hike the Valley. It has been recently confirmed that Waterville Valley is the oldest network of trails in the U.S. It was previously known that it was in the Northeast, but now it's in the whole U.S. It's been confirmed. So that is really exciting, and that's a big plug for us. And I talked about packaging. So for the next one, and I just pulled up some stuff that people should know about. If you're wondering if this is worth it for us to do, I really believe it is worth it. I do believe it will help property values and bring more people in. And the hiking is just blowing up lately. And the biggest jumps, the jumps in 2016 and 17 were almost equivalent to what it was from 2006 to 2016. And then in 18, I'm sure it was even more. So it's just growing. It's a huge market. It would be great to, it's kind of amazing that we're not already such an enormous part of that. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but in 2018, the state of New Hampshire implemented a shuttle service for parking in the Franconia Notch area. So if you've driven there recently, you've seen all the cars kind of lined up on the sides of the roads and having such a problem with that they actually paid to do this shuttle service to reroute people, where they could just be getting off on our exit and coming and finding plenty of parking and doing what we have to offer. One other exciting piece is there is a 50-mile circuit loop in Waterville Valley that's 90% done. There's a 5-mile piece that's not done. That's this is a little bit longer range, but that's what people are looking for. They are looking for some of these longer routes to do in addition to the trails that we already have. And then I just put up that fun fact, which is, proof that it's a place that where people are spending their money. They're spending their money to come to places to hike, and we obviously have that resource.
So you're going to charge people to go hiking? Is that
Well, our program, we will have a small amount of revenue from that. We through our programs and trips, definitely. It's not enormous. The guide will be a very small amount of revenue as well. But really, we're looking at it from kind of a holistic perspective. That it's really going to be good for the whole community and the whole valley to have.
So how does it bring money into the valley? These people are going to be out and they're going to bring their own.
Go ahead.
The idea that came to us as board selectmen was our property values are going down. We're seeing different kinds of transients. Our housing stock, our temporary housing stock, is not the greatest right now. So we looked at what our greatest natural resource is, and it's especially when we saw the buses in Franconia last year, where we want to get the word out to people that are going to hike, and we're going to market. That's why we put Britt in charge of this. He's a resort association we're doing it, and other groups that market the valley weren't doing this. We figured we would make the investment to get Brooke and his staff to do this, to market ourselves as a central hub for people to come up and hike. So the idea is that, hey, you're not doing something, you want to go hiking, you stay in Waterville Valley and you hike from Waterville Valley out 3 or 4, days. You come up, and this isn't geared just for the day hiker. Maybe if we had more traffic in town square, we'd have more little restaurants and shops. We could get some shops that would appeal to hikers, people packaging lunch for hikers, all kinds of things. But the idea is to bring people here who who are gonna fall in love with Waterloo Valley the way we did. They're gonna see the beauty of this place and the nature, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna stay in a hotel room, and they're gonna be happy there's not a bear in the hotel room.
They're gonna stay
But they're going to,
national-
because the price of the hotel room is when we discount to the guests that come up here in large groups. The price is so low that someone can stay in a hotel room and get a shower and be here. That's what we want them to do.
And we're
Because
not,
it's not gonna be prohibitive, it's not gonna be a $300 a night hotel room. You know, these groups are doing Groupons and all kinds of other stuff at $60, $70 a night for a hotel room in here.
and
But
this
don't you find
is,
most hikers wanna stay, I mean, they want to keep.
But if they
don't
want-
wanna be in a hotel.
Some do and some don't.
Some don't.
I know, my wife loves to hike and she would not sleep in a tent.
yeah,
And
and I
I
can
think
attest to
she's a
that.
demographic we're looking for.
The market reach that we're looking for is not gonna be just that sort of granola hippie type hiker that, you know, it's going to be, I mean, it's, when I show you these statistics, it's real, that's across the board, it's the millennials, it's people that are staying in hotels, it's people that are coming from New York, they're gonna be here for a few days.
Let's do Welsh Sticky today, we'll do
it's a much
Triparian
bigger-
tomorrow, we'll have a nice dinner
Yeah.
on Tuesday night, and cook in the room on Wednesday.
And hopefully, if we do it right, you know, we're advertising to all those different groups. It's not just, you know, one, it's the families that are coming up for the week. It's the millennials that are doing a ride share, like a budget, or, a carpool ride share for bot. There's all sorts of different markets.
Yeah, if I look at the difference between how much we're subsidizing rec and parks,
Yeah.
we went from 150 with this proposal to 250. What I'm hearing is we're gonna get that back in terms of increased traffic in town. You know, if we do this, we need to set some measurable goals
Yes.
as to how much more traffic is actually gonna come in, so that 2 years from now, we can sit back and assess,
Yes,
it
we're
worked or it didn't work.
We are definitely going to track this, we're not gonna come up, go, did it work? I wasn't looking. You know,
Well, I'd like to see the
But yes.
goals set ahead of time.
I don't know if we can set a realistic goal now, but we can track who's coming in
You
to
know,
stay
if
for
I
what,
asked,
who's
if
gonna be
if I
part.
was in a business and asked for a quarter, you know, another $100,000, I would have to tell them what I was gonna deliver.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I mean,
well,
I don't think it's any different.
no, I see the point you're making with this.
Yeah.
And we have you have the vote at town meeting to say whether we're gonna do this or not.
No, that's what we're suggesting.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting at least is, and we should meet, and if Brooke needs help, I'm sure there are others around here that would be willing to help her and her department to set up discernible goals, year 1, 2, 3, that says, okay, this is what we had as goals, this is what was actually accomplished.
Yeah.
And that's what Bill is suggesting, and I think that's something.
No,
we
I
should do.
understand, but I think the methodology to track these goals is too scattered here right now. I think she can give you her goals on how many hikers she wants to have through her thing, and all of that, how many people she wants, when I'm guided hikes, how many people did this, how many did that. Where it really comes in is we have to find out where these people came from and where did they stay, and that's gonna take cooperation from sources that are beyond our control, that hopefully we can listen.
Yeah, and what we'll try to do between now and town meeting is get with the Resort Association. We'll try to identify those, because it's not really about the rec department, because her programming, what we're trying to do here, her programming is only a small piece. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to get the additional traffic into town to impact things like occupancy rates, especially midweek. We're gonna eventually try to show that this has had a positive effect.
Mark, that's all true,
on value.
but occupancy rates are readily available.
See, but they're not, we're having problems as the resort of the lodges giving us occupancy rates based on where the source was. So,
That's right.
so if you could knock out, oh, this is a wedding, this is a hockey group, find out who made the call and saw an ad and came in, we were never able to get that from the resort association. That's why we're trying to do this on our own and take the lead in it, as opposed to following and counting on them for it. But I think what we're trying to see is we're trying to see maybe that wedding group that comes in, they're gonna stay Monday and Tuesday and hike and walk around here. And that's the stuff.
Isn't that what we're saying? So in
Yeah,
other words,
we're gonna be able to-
all of a sudden you're increasing your rates. And all we're saying is, fine, there's got to be a way we're spending $100,000. In business world, we would sit here and say, okay, we're spending $100,000 in order to accomplish something. And we should be able to somehow track that.
No, we're gonna try, but we can't come up and give you something right now that's a goal that would be, that I could put myself behind.
You can't measure it, you can't manage it. We'll work on that.
And to your point, Mike, with the Resort Association, the lodging committee has been able to start backing out to find the sources, so it might be able to be more
Right,
readily
it might
identified.
be able to, but it hasn't been in the past.
But we're working towards it.
Just the town square track, what groups are coming in and where
They
they're
don't
sharing.
share it. They don't share it in the track.
We're working towards it.
We're
getting
working,
there.
we're working.
We're
to
getting
try
there.
to get
This-
it.
this-
Business owner, I used to get that information.
Well, you get it, but you don't get the other stuff, like who bought where, who decided to come in, call to action if an ad came out.
We will work on getting measurable goals and have them by town.
All right, just speaking about advertising, I wanted to compliment the town on the new sign. It's very attractive from the front, but the back is kind of lacking.
Yes, we're working with the Forest Service to see what they'll allow us
Well,
to do.
One suggestion that I heard someone said I thought was brilliant, what about Waterville Valley founded, whenever it was founded,
Right.
and put that on the back, and then maybe have something with the US.
That's what we're going for, but we need their approval before we.
Okay, okay, and then the other part of that is when you do your advertising, can you mention bicycling, because the trails here are awesome, and they're kind of, I think that's an underutilized aspect of it.
Well, I will, and we will. It's not just me advertising, it will be.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay. So we've been, with this trail collective, one of their goals too is to expand mountain biking, and they're one of their projects in the close
Right, I
future
saw.
is the Smarts Brook area.
Yep.
And they're interested in getting it into Waterville Valley, so there's a way. So that is another piece that definitely will be marketed.
Tom, part of what we're doing when we get to it is additional sign, wayfaring, and trail work.
Okay.
These are multi-purpose trails.
Right.
And these will be marked for bicycles, for hiking, for everything else. We're trying to make this an effortless, seamless place for someone who wants to get out, come in nature, get out, go out for the day, find their way back easily, know the level of trail they're going to.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is a lot of people don't recognize that, and actually the trails are more geared to the beginner intermediate, which is a really nice thing, than the expert. But there are other expert trails nearby. So, and also pickleball.
So I just wanted to say one more thing about this is that the programming and the money going out, you know, or the programming is not that much of it for what you'll see as an effect. I think the effect will be the focus that we put on really establishing our trails and wayfinding around town square, mapping it out for people to see. I think, and the ultimate effect is that more people will come here, more people will enjoy it. Right now it's very disorganized. We really need that work to be done, and it's gonna, you know, it has to come from somewhere, from someone focusing on it and doing that work.
Ready to move on?
Sorry.
All right.
But I can do that last one if you want.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to do that?
I mean, that's fine.
Yep.
So there were two quotes that we received for a new recreation bus. The first one is the same bus that we currently have. It's just the 2019 version, which seems to be upgraded and a lot nicer, but maybe it's just because it's new. And that's $57,000 is the purchase price. And then option 2 is the Thomas Field Activity Bus, the exact same offerings. Actually, the other one has slightly better safety provisions, but this one is $77,000. So it seemed like we would recommend going with the.
So the 60, yeah, the 66, the warrant article has to be for the entire amount, including interest costs. That's why the warrant article says $66,000, or you will see that it'll say $66,000 with a $22,000 first year payment. Yeah, the door, you can't hardly get the door.
We run everything.
We've had ongoing mechanical issues with it, and it's just, it is used quite a bit.
Steph Gardner bought that.
Stephanie did
answer your question, the two options, the option two, is there in fact a bus that could be used for busing students that would not require, am I reading that? That would not require some special license driver?
Neither one of these buses require a special license.
Is the second one, could that be used to take kids to Plymouth? The second option?
They both could. Either one of these buses.
But don't you
could.
need a special, if it's a
If-
school
if it
related,
is
you need a
a-
special
That
driver.
came up before the school budget hearing,
No,
that
wait,
whole
no.
thing was
No,
canceled on the
wait.
basis that.
You need a
it's
special
$100,000.
driver if you're going to, if you're transporting to a school,
Yeah.
as a public school thing, the driver has to have a special license.
That's
Oh, he
correct.
does? Oh, yes, all right.
And you need two of those.
And we know that.
Yeah. Yes, we know that is state law.
So what's the difference between the two buses?
They're really,
$20,000.
$20,000.
it's really like a bundle.
We're just showing you we're buying the cheaper.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
options.
yeah.
They are identical.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's get back to.
Yes.
Yeah. And then new bonds from 2018, so there is an increase of, on lines 4721 and 4723, there's a change of 31,981, and that's due to the first year of payments on the bonds that were approved in 2018. And that is all in accordance with the capital program that the planning board has put together. And then there are some non-monetary warrant articles. We alluded to the proposed potential, whatever you want to call it, location of the non-denominational chapel. That'll be a presentation that'll be done at town meeting. Then there are two ordinances, selectmen's ordinances, regarding solid waste disposal and the container enclosures, dumpster enclosures, that the selectmen are going to be holding a public hearing next Wednesday at their meeting. Mark your calendars for 3 p.m. next Wednesday to talk about dumpsters.
When it does,
No dumpster diving.
really simply, it delineates the responsibility of the associations to maintain
Correct.
the dumpsters, where they've been assuming we are maintaining inside the enclosure.
Okay. And then there are two petition warrant articles, one to increase the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5, and the other to have a split town meeting with a deliberative session on the second Tuesday of March, and the other part, the voting on the second Tuesday of March, and the deliberative session on another day. And those have both been certified by the town clerk and will show up on the warrant.
All right. Okay, any questions on the operating budget? Let's move on.
Okay. So we have 3 bond articles on the warrant. These are for borrowing. They all will be voted on during the deliberative session by written ballot. And all 3 of these warrant articles take 2/3 approval to pass. And I'd like to start with,
Now, the voting is after discussion or?
yes, after discussion, so there'll be discussion, and then that'll stop, and however the moderator wants to do it, we'll vote. The polls have to be open for an hour, and just like we've always done.
2/3 of the votes cast.
2/3 of the votes cast have to be in the affirmative. So the planning board and the selectmen have developed the capital improvements program. Historically, we've had a 6-year plan, but the selectmen and the planning board have really extended that out to a 30-year detailed plan right now. It includes all of our capital needs for all of the infrastructure, like the water and sewer lines and all of our buildings, all of our vehicles, everything. That is a purchase that is over $10,000 or has a useful life of 3 years or more. So if it meets those two criteria, it's going to be on the CIP. This is graphically what the plan looks like. So if you, this line right here, the green one, is the annual amount that we have in outstanding debt year to year. And that is if everything in the capital program gets approved. The blue line is the new debt that's being added each year. And the red line is our principal payments that we are estimating will be repaid each year. The goal, as we put this plan together, is to keep this line as level as we can so that we are making the investment in improving our infrastructure and replacing our key vehicles, but to keep the tax rate from going up and down. Okay, so even though there are years when we incur new debt, we're paying off loans so that the net effect of it is this red line. And you can see that between the planning board and the selectmen, we've kept it right around $500,000 a year for our, which is about 10% of our operating budget. Right? At $5 million. Any questions on that? Yes?
Am I reading this right, that we're going to be doubling our debt by 2023?
We are, yes. This right here, yes.
That is if everything
Total
is voted
debt,
in,
if everything
capital
gets approved.
plan. There's some things in there like new town buildings and things like that that we're going to be discussing.
Yeah. The big one is the fire truck.
The big one here is the fire truck. The big one here is town hall renovations and changes.
So none of these things are really different stuff. This is just, and the CIP committee changes their views. Like an example, the fire truck was kicked out so many years. Same thing with the trash truck. If we don't need it, we don't buy it.
Okay. So there are 3 bonded articles, as I said. I'd like to start actually with number 11, because days before gentlemen. And Wendy, representing the town core working group, is going to be doing a presentation here. This is for the $150,000 for trail improvement and signage, additional signage.
And I'll try to keep this pretty brief. But essentially, with the Town Core Working Group, we've been going through our ultimate goal is to help facilitate pedestrianization. So encourage people to get out there and use the trails. In going through the recommendations from the project, the revitalization study from a few years back, as well as looking at our ultimate goals in streamlining and reducing vehicle traffic, we decided the best thing to do would be to start at the center of town, around the town core. So town square. Slide. So you're all aware of all the beautiful aspects that we have. Our waterways are really one of our gems in the valley. It's great to be able to hang out by the pond. And our thought was if we can create a more inviting trail around the pond, as well as along the trail. We were referring to it as the Village Trail. Some of you may know it as the Old Fitness Trail. Sometimes it's even called Snows Brook Trail. But for our purposes, we're calling it the Village Trail, which is how the sign reads now. So we're looking to, along these areas, we can currently see, making them a bit more streamlined. So both our residents, who are of course familiar with the different ways to get places, and our guests, more importantly, will be able to better use these areas. So this kind of gives sort of that idea, a bit of a lollipop shape. So coming up Village Trail, and then around the pond. Yeah. And exactly, and the area of the pond closest to Valley Road is, of course, where we have the biggest hurdle, in that ideally we'd have a bridge there. The regulations around creating a bridge make it a very expensive part of the project, so that's not something we would be looking at for right now. And what we're showing here is sort of a preliminary idea that we'll be looking at. The ultimate goal is to create a nice surface in the trail to go around as much of the pond as possible, to make it easy for pedestrians, wheelchairs, strollers, anyone who wants to get out there, have a nice firm surface, still permeable, so we're not talking a paved surface, but a nice firm surface. And also we had included the Village Trail, because that's a great way to loop in from the conference center to get those folks up into the town center easily, and creating kind of a path from Snows Brook Road more easily to the town square.
Wendy, why don't you connect, you have two underpasses, so connect the trail that connects on the other side of Village Road, and then you have a full circle, and then one of those things that you can't do the bridge to would be a branch of that.
That's in one of our discussions, absolutely. I think, eventually we, of course, as we've been talking earlier, we're looking at doing a multi-use pathway. We want to be sure to be able to tie into the multi-use pathway well. Yet using one of those, the underpasses is something we've talked about. It would not be within the realm of what we can do now with the budget that we're requesting.
I mean, there's already a trail that connects to both underpasses.
Yep, but with the budget that we're looking for, I don't think we're pretty certain we would not be able to, because we're not only looking at the surface, we're also looking at lighting and signage. So we're just starting with this section that we feel like we'd be able to afford and would give kind of the most bang for the buck.
It will be something that is the goal. We're trying to connect into the National Forest here at this underpass, and also connecting out here and following the the Village Trail out into the National Forest this way. So we're just focusing on this area for the first phase.
No, I understand, but you're talking.
So the plan will include connections with those trails that you're talking about.
But you're talking about a circle, and it's always nicer to do a loop than it is down a dead end.
And if we have enough money, we definitely.
And I'm just saying, you could just, even if just people even if you showed it as a dashed, right now, connecting the two underpasses, it does make that a loop. So I'm just saying, in your initial, do it an inexpensive way to start, and then you can bring it in a little bit more fully later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
What is number 14?
This is, at town meeting, we're going to have more slides. That'll be a cross-section of what that path will look like, looking in this direction.
It's not a pier.
See the little
arrows?
arrows?
That was what I was wondering.
See the little arrows I just showed you?
Yeah, this is all very much preliminary. We ended up working a bit with the SE group again to help us pull together some designs. And this was sort of, we got this on Friday, and it's very much a first stage. So by the time that town meeting comes around, we'll have a much more finalized plan to be able to discuss.
And the bottom line is, we have a lot of people, a lot of bicycles, the Nordic Center and everything else in town square. We're trying to get them out of there and out into the national forest, connecting to the hiking trails, connecting to the bike trails in a better way than we do it now, because they're just all over the place right now. Like Mike talks about, you know, you can set your watch by the 2 o'clock mass of Nordic Trail bikers that drive up Boulder Path Road in the middle of the road. You know, we've got to find ways to make it safer for these people to be around town.
Well, hopefully with the multi-use path system that you're kind of implementing, that'll
Exactly.
work in conjunction with that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Right?
A little bit of a close-up onto the town square. So part of like what Mark was just saying in terms of directing the folks out of the bike shop out into wherever they're looking to go into town. Look at perhaps a bollard system around the patio area of the town square. Just again to discourage folks from flying through the square and running over toddlers, old ladies with strollers. Anyway, so we're looking to, that's just a little close up. Again, not a finalized plan, but along the lines of what we're thinking.
Yeah. I'm just curious, this is showing the trail as right along the edge of the pond.
And again, it's not a finalized plan.
Oh, okay.
This is not
Is there some
necessarily.
reason why you can't use the existing trail that's there?
There is absolutely no reason why we can't do that.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's, yeah, like I said, this is just
All right.
what we've just
Fine.
received, so, yeah.
So
Okay.
Wendy, most of it is signage, you said, and writing?
We'll
Yeah,
be getting
so
to that
here's-
shortly.
here's the next.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
these
this
are-
kind of shows the character of sort of inspiration of what we're looking for. I mean, how great would it be as we go through this project to tear up our granite curbing and use it to help line the trail? It's a thought. But we also, you know, want that hard pack surface, but not paved. So just a general idea of the character of what we're looking to do.
I just wanted to say, everyone's thrilled about taking up the granite curb, but it is a general safety issue, especially in the winter when cars slide and the plowing is done in a manner you can't see the line. So I think that, you know, really needs to be carefully thought out.
Absolutely, it's totally within
And
our
then the
line
other
of
thing,
sight.
if you did use the existing pathways, you could create overlook, or some of those areas that we're showing next to the pond, desired, you know, locations with minimum expense.
Totally all in, our scope of work here, yeah.
Okay.
So this would show potential lighting plan. At this point, what we're planning for certain is to lay the conduit for all of the lights. And there'll be a slide coming up showing the different types of lights we're looking at. We're not necessarily expecting to be able to afford all of these units as part of this initial funding request, but at least get the conduit laid and perhaps every third or fourth light be able to get that installed. Again, just to make it more inviting for the guests who don't necessarily want to wander into the woods at dusk with bears around. You can see that it's a lit path and it's welcoming.
Yeah, and these are not all huge lights.
Exactly. So we've got, well, you folks I'm sure are familiar with the size of the light by the bridge. Then we're also looking at some of the smaller bollard lights. Of course, we would take into account snowpack and how that would affect it in the winter. It's all part of our ongoing discussion with that.
Yeah,
And the
just a
tax.
question, just a quick question. I assume there was money left over from the sign project because we didn't do some of the road work.
That's correct.
Can that money be applied to this project?
No, it cannot, because the bond issue was for road repairs and the installation of the new sign. So whatever is remaining, we have to use on road.
But we could
work.
choose to deactivate those funds.
Yes, you could. Town meeting in 2020 could recoup those monies
Right.
if we're not going to do that road.
All right.
And
Do these
Pat,
mean-
as you said, we are definitely dark sky conscious in how we're proceeding with this.
So these meet that standard?
Yes.
These light
Yes.
fixtures? Okay.
All of these all these lights will be dark sky.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any thought about putting the bridge back over Sills Brook when it washed away?
Mark,
We
you
can't.
mentioned that
We
would be
can't.
better.
We can't.
That was a great bridge.
I know.
It was great. And showing some, I apologize that the little abbreviations won't make a whole lot of sense looking at it in this order, but basically looking at rough placements of additional signage. Maybe easier to flip to the
Yep.
next. So we'd be looking at something like a larger kiosk right near the town square. And then as you go out into the trails, there would be additional signage that would incorporate the icons that you see on our gateway sign to make it easier for folks to know where bicycling is encouraged, where hiking,
Trails
you-
to
exactly,
a restaurant or whatever it is.
exactly. So we're basically, if you picture this as a wheel, we're looking at the hub and we're encouraging people to get onto the spokes and using these types of signs to let people not only place themselves in the valley, but also look at, oh, we can get to the athletic club from here. And you can't see it, but oh, there's the icon for it, and it's that direction. Encourage that type of really easy walking about the center.
And we can tie the icons into things like the new town-centered walking map. And we can get people, we can use them on buildings to actually mark where the different venues are and those sorts of things. So we're trying, if you see here, we're trying to use the post and the black metal, the same color, green and brown, the use of the icons. It's all trying to match into what we did with the entrance sign. So that when somebody comes here, it all looks the same to them. If you go up to Smuggler's Notch or other resorts, I'm sure you guys have experience going there, and you'll see that the signs are all consistent. So we even have the same mountain outline that we have on the big sign. We're just trying to tie it all together. And we're going to do the same thing on the road signs and the other directional signs as we go through this project.
Yeah, part of the end of this will give us a family of signs, so to speak. So we will know exactly, as we get down and say going out to Cascades, we will have just the right type of sign to go there. It'll be designed. We won't have that fee to incur again. So we'll have our nice little binder of signs and say, to whatever sign company we need this exactly created.
Right.
This will make us a real resort.
Imagine that.
Really, nice job.
Yeah, it will.
Very nice.
So the existing signs that are sprinkled throughout town,
Yeah.
not a lot, not as informative, those will be replaced by.
Oh,
Okay, good, because that would drive someone like me batty to have 18
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
locations.
Well, and it's
So
such
we've
a,
been talking about this for years, creating a uniform sign
Yeah.
and a brand for the valley.
and undoing the confusion that comes with having the cross-country trails and the bicycle trails and the hiking trails that are all different names and all overlapping. We'll get them all streamlined and communicating with each other so it makes sense.
And does this, these are going up on resort-owned land, town-owned land?
No, actually, most of this is, most of it's town-owned land. This one right here, this here, this one and this one, no, actually, just this one and this one are on resort land, otherwise it's town-owned property. The kiosk it depends on the exact final location for it. There's a property boundary between town land and resort land right there, so it'll be close. But they're part of this group that's
And there's
working with it.
Yes,
so.
there's a lot of support from the resort for this whole plan. And they're regular participants in the town core working group, so there's a lot of communication there.
Harry, did you have something?
Just,
No,
the
DD is
intent
not
here is
Dunkin' Donuts.
seasonal, it's year round?
Yes, year round.
Yes.
It'll be cross-country friendly and vice versa.
Any other questions?
Great job.
The bridge that you were talking about that you're not gonna do right away,
I'm sorry?
the bridge,
Oh.
there's a bridge.
Our way of getting across the pond at the
Right here.
Valley
The
Road.
eastern
You know,
end.
it's possible that we could maybe cantilever off the existing, road bridge.
We may be
Unfortunately,
able to build a new bridge, but there's a lot of
it's really
permitting
expensive.
that would go
Yeah.
on with that, and we gotta figure that out. So right now, the idea is to just bring the trail up onto the sidewalk, on both sides, and just use the sidewalk, or, as Thomas suggests, we could go through the underpasses and connect on the other side. We'll have to look at that.
So that's not a definitive
It's not
part
definitive.
of the project.
No.
Yeah.
These are
Well,
very broad strokes.
Yeah, only because, we'd like to have a boardwalk, that would be ideal, but a boardwalk's gonna last 4 months and then it's gonna get flooded out, so we gotta find some way to do that.
We'll move on. I want to talk about the trash truck.
Trash truck.
I think we've had a little bit on the trash truck. We need a new trash truck. Look at that.
Is that all you want to do?
Well,
I'm up, it's up to you.
anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions on the trash truck?
Yeah.
It would be nice if you could wait to see the recommendations of the consultant going to buy the truck. It would be nice.
Yeah, but we're paying $75 an hour for this one, it doesn't even work for us.
Okay. Anybody? Okay.
All right. Ladder truck replacement?
You're on.
Okay, a lot of people were here for the public hearing for the lease back in August for the our emergency replacement, our emergency fix to our ladder truck replacement. So we'll just go through these real quick. We've all heard them before. Actually, there's not a slide before that. Okay. Well, let me give you a brief history on how we came to this point and where we are.
Right here, right here.
There it is. Okay. Our old truck was a 1980. It's actually a 1987 LTI 85-foot ladder. When we purchased it back in 1987, it had a life expectancy of 25 years. We put it on the CIP for 2012, which would have made it 25 years old. And during the CIP process and with the planning board, we kept pushing it out, and that was agreed upon by everybody. The truck was functioning fine, passing the tests. We were taking good care of it. And then in May 2018, it came up on the CIP again, and we were directed to give it the Underwriters Laboratories test, which is a 5-year test, which is more intense than the annual test that was passed. So we failed the test in May of 2018. Repairs estimated at $150,000. Collectively, the selectmen and the department decided to take it out of service. We just used it. So we got 31 years out of a 25-year expected life of the truck. It did us very well. So in August, the selectmen did the emergency appropriation. We had a public hearing. Most of you were there. And we entered into a 1-year lease from September 18th of 18 to 9 of 19. So we have the truck until September. Go ahead. So, I touched on some of these at the public hearing in regards to the need for a ladder truck. We have 10 high occupancy buildings that are 3 stories or higher. 5 of the buildings have a potential occupancy of 100 or more. Some of them are upwards to 300. We have some reach issues for some of the residential properties on small and uneven lots, and obviously reach issues for these buildings that are over 3 stories high. And with our staffing limitations, this is a necessary piece of equipment for the safety. And we can't depend on mutual aid because the nearest ladder truck that we have available to us is in Plymouth. And they need to send 3 people with that truck. And they only have 2 people on duty, so they're not going to empty their town to come up here with a ladder truck until they call in people. So we're talking half an hour at best, but more like 45 minutes if we had to depend on them to come in with a ladder truck. Next. Oop. So did you go by
Well,
that?
that was your first slide.
Oh, okay, all right. So here we are, we have options. We can continue to lease the current truck, purchase a used truck with bond issue, or buy out the current lease with bond issue. Okay, I have notes here. Continue current lease, or I'm going to narrow it down to say why this particular truck that we have in our possession now. It's a demo truck, but it has a brand new warranty. We got it for $270,000 off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So it's about a 25% discount we got with the new truck warranties.
How long is that warranty, Chris?
The new truck warranties, there's several of them. So there's a 1-year general warranty.
But does that start from the day we buy it or the lease?
It started. It started when we signed the lease.
All right, so the warranty would be up in September.
Well,
for that part.
It's got a lifetime frame warranty, a 20-year aerial device structural warranty, which was part of what failed on the last truck. A 10-year structural warranty on the vehicle, a 10-year plumbing warranty, a 10-year body and paint warranty, a 5-year aerial device paint and corrosion warranty. So those are all the warranties that this truck comes with. We don't need to modify the building, it fits in the building. It meets all the current NFPA standards. It's the National Fire Protection Association. They set the industry standard for safety of firefighters and equipment. We can have our service done in our fire station by the local dealer, and it's 3 people can operate the truck, which is a huge savings of personnel. So from the financial side of it, the total cost of the lease is $1.1 million. Okay. So this is kind of where I'm going to pick up the detailed part of the presentation. I was instructed by the Board of Selectmen to look into the option of purchasing a used truck in replacing the old ladder truck. So, given our specifications and what we need in a truck, we came up with a couple different options. Option 1, a 2007, so it's 12 years old, for $550,000. It's too tall to fit in our bay. So if we were to go with that purchase, we'd have to do some serious building modifications. But that is an option. So one of the cons to that is both of these options only have a 1-year limited maintenance warranty and no other warranty on top of it. So we could have it for a year and have a severe failure in the test and be right back where we were in August. NFPA constantly updates their standards. So the 2007 standard, it wouldn't fit today's standard. And I know we do the best we can to meet the standard. So, I mean, we have old equipment that doesn't meet the standard. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but it's my responsibility, and I owe it to the safety of everybody that we do our best to meet those standards. So, and then option 2 is a $700,000 truck. Again, it's too large to fit the fire bay. Pros, there's less capital investment in the truck, and the vehicle may be available immediately, but in both cases, we'd have to do some kind of building modification, so that would trump having it available immediately or being able to receive it immediately. So essentially what we boiled it all down to is the current truck that we have, we can get a 30 to 35 year truck. So we wouldn't have to talk about this again until 2040-ish. For about, when you look at the total cost, for about 20 to 30% more than we could for a 10-year truck or a 15-year truck. So you're looking at, a 15-year truck, we're going to be about 30% less than if we bought a 30-plus year truck in total cost when it comes to fitting it in the building and everything. And we just feel that this is just the best option that we have for life safety and for protecting our infrastructure and your investments. So the financial part of this is, I'll let Mark talk about the financial parts. Well, you have more financial information, or is it? I know that's the nuts and bolts of it, so talk about that.
So the two options is to pay the $1,103,000 and lease it over the next 11 years, or bond it for a 25-year period. And those, if we're going to buy the new truck, those are our two ways to go. So to pay off, buy out the lease, we would have to borrow $828,500 and utilize the existing capital reserve of $71,500. So the total purchase price is $900,000. The annual payments to finance the $828,000 fit into our current CIP guidance, that chart that we showed you, trying to keep the payments level around $500,000. That is met with the bond. It will change if we decide to lease it. We would be slightly over that for that 11-year period, because there's a difference between the 25-year annual payment and the $103,000. So that difference varies year to year, but it will change our CIP calculations. And I guess those are the two choices. Oh, and the warrant article that I showed you that's in green that I said is a contingent warrant article, the selectmen have asked us to put that into the warrant so that if the bond issue does not pass, or town meeting's decision is to go with the lease, we already have the lease in the warrant so that you can vote. Okay, so that's what that warrant is.
Mark, maybe I've copied some numbers wrong down here. You said that if we lease it, the total cost of the lease would be $1,103,300. That seems to be less than the cost of bonding it at this stage.
It
Why?
is.
And to your point, it gives us a lot of flexibility to have a lease. Why wouldn't you lease it?
Because the reason that we're recommending the bond is so that the property owners who are getting the benefit of the piece of equipment over the entire useful life are the ones who are paying. And if you own a parcel, well, Bill, that's the reason.
Well, no, I hear you.
Okay, I know that there's a disagreement on that. But if you're paying the $1 million over an 11-year period, if you sell your property in year 12, you have helped pay for the entire cost of that truck.
For the people that are here 20
For
years.
the people that are here 20 years or beyond, right, starting in year 12, they're going to use that truck for another 20 years potentially with no cost. And so that is the primary reason, is to have the people who use it pay for it.
But that doesn't apply to backhoes and all that
Well,
other
it
stuff
does.
that you
It
lease.
does.
Then why don't you bond those?
Because, well, because we are a little, it is a different operation. We know we're going to need the Golden Eagle Lodge, the Black Bear Lodge, they're not going anywhere. We know that we are gonna have to provide fire protection to those buildings with a ladder truck in the foreseeable future. There may be something that changes in the way we do road maintenance. We may get an outside contract to come in where we don't need a backhoe loader. I don't know that for certain, that we're gonna continue to plow our own roads. We know we're gonna have a fire department, and we know we're gonna provide fire service, fire protection to our buildings. That's not gonna change. It's just a different operation, and that's the way we're looking at it.
I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is the life expectancy of the vehicle. Okay, it doesn't bother me so much to lease a vehicle that has a 10-year life and we're going to pay it off in 3 years or 5 years, whatever it is. But when we have something that we expect to be around for the next 30 years, I don't think we should be asking taxpayers over the next 10 years to assume the full financial cost.
I actually found this presentation compelling, and Bill, one of the things that it's also, if you expect that things are going to continue to inflate, prices are going to continue to go up, that brings the cost of the bond issue down, because you're paying that off in dollars that are so far in the future they're actually worth less versus current dollars. So it actually is a more compelling argument than I thought it was going to be.
And we can bond, if we don't want to lease, the selectmen can look at the plan, and if we want to pay off these leases and we want to bond them because the interest rates stay low enough and it makes financial sense, we can change the way that we approach any of our vehicles at any time. So we're open to that.
What's the interest rate on that bond calculated?
The bond is 4.25%. It came from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. And their last sale, they actually sold a 25-year note at 3.19, but they can't guarantee their rates until they actually do the sale. So they're using 4.25 right now.
So
So that is guaranteed, but it could be less.
No,
Not
well, they don't even
guaranteed.
guarantee
It's
the
a target.
4.25, but that's their conservative estimate, based
How
on.
do you vote on something that's gonna change then?
Because part of the vote that you take is that the selectmen you give the selectmen authority to establish the rates and the terms of the bonds. You're just
We
appropriating.
could say no if the bond went up to 7.5. We can
That's
say-
right, they could say no.
All right, any more questions on the fire truck? All right.
I will commend Chris for at least looking at the possibility of used fire trucks. We started this discussion a year ago with used fire trucks. And we're now, and I realize, but at least, thank you for looking.
And you've looked at more than just two.
Yeah, no, that was just two examples. We looked at two, and yeah, there was some that were not worth mentioning that were crashed and needed lots of body work and framework, and so.
Well, you've used this and you like it,
Yeah,
isn't that right?
yeah. Well, we didn't get too attached to it, but we are familiar with it.
Will now.
We didn't put all black letters on it, so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other questions on anything that we covered tonight? Thank you for your attention. Really appreciate it.
Everybody, please be very careful the time that we've been in here. We've had freezing rain, parking lot, very, very icy, so please be careful.